Hi, I'm Aiko Shiota, and I'm a 32-year-old single parent. Today I'd like to talk about a horrifying experience that even thinking about makes my spine shudder. Like I said, I raise a single daughter alone. Her name is Ruriko. She's in kindergarten and she just turned 5 years old. I wasn't always a single mother. I was married to her father at one point. Akira is the same age as I, and we split up not a year after Ruriko was born. The reason was simple, was that he was born a bastard. Honey, please, stop with the gambling. You're a father now, you know.
Shut the frick up! Who told you could bear it? I told you to get it aborted! You bore it behind my back, so don't go about pointing at me as the father!
He never found a proper job and he descended into a gambling addiction as a result. If he came home drunk, domestic violence was an everyday thing for him. On especially bad days, I had to go to the hospital the next day to get some treatment. It was because I was pregnant with Ruriko. I hoped he would change once our child came into the world, but there was nothing more futile than that, it turned out. But he still had no right to say that I bore it behind his back. When he found out about me being pregnant, it was him who said,
So how about we get married?
I don't think he had any idea how much hope those words of his gave me. I genuinely thought he was finally thinking for us. And he was going to make some changes. In the end, I was the biggest fool to expect anything grand from him. And in this manner, I became a single parent as a form of escape from Akira. Fortunately, I found a job at a small designing company which also had a nursery attached, and I'm doing well for myself, balancing work and child upbringing.
Miss Shiota, it's almost time to pick Ruriko up, isn't it? You may be done for the day.
Mr. Ryuzaki. Well, if you insist, I'll call it a day here. Thank you so much. My boss, Mr. Ryuzaki, cares for me somewhat, and that's a really big help. I've heard of companies that are cold and heartless towards its female employees raising children of their own. So I truly believe I'm blessed to have him as a boss.
And what do you plan to do about the party this weekend?
I'm so sorry, I couldn't find any place to take care of Ruriko.
I see. It's such a shame, but I suppose it can't be helped.
You're inviting me all the time and I apologize. When the timing's great, I'll definitely join everyone.
I'm also looking forward.
But you see, single mothers need to have their priorities straight. Basically, going out of the house late at night is a no-no. And it isn't like I can save a chunk of alone time either. But even so... Mommy, you're back! I am Ruriko, sweetheart. Have you been a good girl? After work, when I go to pick up Ruriko from the nursery, just seeing my daughter beam from ear to ear is enough to make my day. It's truly amazing, isn't it? How just a small thing can make the world seem like the most beautiful place in the whole universe. There are always the occasional things that are truly hard, but I'm not having trouble with work, with money, or with my private life. My life was infinitely happier compared to when I was together with my chowderhead ex. But one day, in the late afternoon on the weekend, the doorbell to our apartment rang. When I went to answer it...
Pardon me, ma'am. The name's Kamezu from the Child Protection Center.
Child Protection Agency? A staff member of the Child Protection Agency by the name of Kamezu was suddenly at the door. It appeared that someone had called them about me potentially neglecting my daughter.
I beg your pardon again, ma'am. But would you please sit down and discuss the matter with me?
What? Of course I never did anything of the sort, but I let him in and Ruriko, under my explanations, greeted him politely. After a brief explanation, I allowed him to inspect Ruriko for any sign of injury.
Thank you for your patience. I just had to look at your daughter's body, but there seems to be no sign of physical abuse. Above all, she seems very comfortable sitting next to you. The only conclusion is that our caller was mistaken.
For me, inflicting any sort of harm to my dear daughter, Ruriko, is unthinkable. There are rare occasions when we raise our voices because we argue, but...
That's but a universal truth for all families, ma'am. For the time being, my work for today is done here.
In this manner, we managed to see him leave convinced that there was no need for suspicion. But being accused of child abuse, even when I wouldn't dream of such an atrocity... Before anger, what I felt was downright fear. Who in the world could have reported this? Did we have a stalker on our hands? I analyzed the most possible options. The biggest possibility is our next-door neighbor, but Miss Yumi is a young woman, living on her own, and what with us being close in age, we became socially close too. So the only next-door neighbor we have is Miss Yumi. Of course she'd met Ruriko, and she'd even babysit her sometimes. Although it isn't anything completely impossible, it's hard to imagine she was the anonymous caller who'd provided disinformation. The next person that comes to mind is my ex-husband, Akira. Now that I think about it, he was as useless a husband, but he was actually quite fond of baby Ruriko. But honestly, just staring lovingly at his sleeping daughter's face and occasionally cradling her doesn't count as proper child upbringing. He never provided anything for his daughter and never ever helped around the house either. He just spent an ungodly amount of money on gambling. We never formally discussed divorce, and I pretty much forced it upon him, so I wouldn't be surprised if he held a grudge, and I began to think that he tried to trap me and take custody of Ruriko in the process. And so this line of logic made me decide to contact Akira for the first time in 5 years. Hey, you did this, right?
The hell? And you contact me after too long, too. Clue me in on this, damn you.
You gave disinformation to the Child Consultation Center, didn't you?
The frick?
Don't feign ignorance. Aren't you ashamed to make such a stupid move to take custody of Ruriko?
Wait a damn second. I didn't do anything of the sort.
I can't think of anyone else.
Oh, right. You don't know this because we haven't talked in 5 years. I'm currently on parole.
What? Are you serious?
Yep, so even if I did do something like that, getting custody over Ruriko will always end up in a bust. There's no way I can care for a child when I can't even live my own life normally. So there's absolutely no reason to do something stupid like that.
Is that the truth?
If you doubt me, ask my mother. Like I said, right now, I can't live on my own. I'm living at my parents' home now.
I contacted his family too, just in case, but what Akira said was the truth. He was apparently arrested with a charge of using illegal drugs, cocaine to be precise, and up until 6 months ago he was in prison. And now he's out on parole and relying on his family to get by. I knew he was completely useless, but I was shocked to discover he was that deep in bullshit. I was right to run out on him that time. What he and his mother told me didn't make my suspicions completely clear up, but they did manage to convince me there's no good reason for him to trap me and steal Ruriko away. Furthermore, I even went to contact the Child Protection Center for more info. I got a hold of the same Mr. Kamezu who paid us a visit the other day. I honestly didn't think I would get what I wanted for legal reasons, but it was worth a shot to ask. And that's why I would like to inquire about the identity of the person who reported me.
The individual who reported to us did so anonymously. Thus, I'm afraid we're as lost as you are regarding the identity of our mysterious caller. In any case, we're bound by legal protocol to never reveal the identity, even if we did know. I'm terribly sorry we can't be of any help to you, ma'am.
I thought so. If you think about it, no one with common sense would give their name for a thing like this. Even if they did, a trusted organization like a child protection agency wouldn't give up clients' personal information so easily. In the end, I did everything I thought of to do about the matter, but my search for clues ended fruitless. Days went by and we never got another visit from Mr. Kamezu. The single report of child negligence later spiraled into the scariest nightmare a parent could ever endure. Hey, are you okay? I was so surprised to find ambulances at our apartment building. What happened to dear Ruriko? The poor dear fell down the stairs. She's at the hospital now, but she's unconscious for about 2 hours. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. How is she now physically? Doctors looked at her and they said her life isn't in danger. She suffered a couple bruises and a concussion. Thank goodness. Did she come to yet? No, not yet, but doctors say she will eventually. Sorry if this whole incident was a bother to you. Oh, don't worry, as long as she's okay. You take work off today too, and stay at her side. Yeah, I let my job know not too long ago, and I'm planning to be with her for a few days. Yep, today is a holiday. Ruriko was on her way to playdate with one of her nursery friends who lives in the same apartment building as us. Just as we were walking out of the door, my mother called me and we started talking for a while. Ruriko, impatient, walked out the door all by herself. I didn't think anything would go wrong. Her friend lived on the floor underneath us anyhow, so I let her go and I went on talking on the phone. In retrospect, that was probably the single most dangerous mistake a parent like me could ever do. Because literally 1 minute later, as I walked out and started to go down the stairs, Ruriko? What happened? Answer me! Ruriko! I found my daughter unconscious at the bottom of the steps. Based on the environment, I concluded she had tripped and fallen down the stairs. I immediately called for an ambulance and she was quickly taken to a hospital. Fortunately, she didn't sustain any life-threatening injuries and doctors told me she'd come to sometime soon. I was talking to Miss Yumi at Ruriko's side when...
Excuse me. We received another report, so we've come to investigate.
Mr. Kamezu from the Child Protection Agency presented himself again. However, unlike last time, he didn't come alone but with a few more staff members.
We received word that you forcefully pushed your daughter down the stairs, so you must forgive us, but this calls for temporary protection.
For a brief instant, I thought my ears weren't working. Temporary protection literally means that the child would be taken away from their parents to ensure their safety until further notice. In other words, I may never see Ruriko ever again. Please, hold on. This is some kind of mistake. I swear on my life I would never do such a thing. I tried desperately to convince them, but they paid no heed, and a few of them forced me outside of the facility. They told me we would discuss the matter in a few days, and I was sent home. Ruriko would be taken to the protection facility once she regained consciousness. The shock from the incident left me completely catatonic. For the rest of the day, I couldn't even think straight about anything half the time, only about my darling, darling Ruriko. When evening arrived, my boss, Mr. Ryuzaki, called me.
I just heard that your daughter is in a bad condition. How's she doing?
Yes, she'll be fine. However, as I told someone else over the phone, I must be absent for another few days. I'm so sorry to cause so much trouble.
Oh no, don't you worry about that. Anyway, did she come to yet?
I don't know.
What?
I cannot be with her right now.
It looks like the situation's worse than I thought. If you let me, I can come over and listen to what you have to say. In any case, it isn't good to be alone right now, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. I really could use some company right now, actually. I usually don't let many people come inside my apartment, but just this once I was desperate. So I did as he suggested, and he came over to my place. His consoling calmed me down. And I poured everything that had happened thus far, and as I finished telling the story, I realized I was crying hard. And then Mr. Ryuzaki gently took my hand.
You've been through so much, but it's all right now. I'm here for you, always.
He was basically coming on to me. I tilted my head up and saw his face approach mine, his eyes closed and his lips slightly open. Hey, please, hold on a minute! What are you thinking, sir? At a time like this? I raised my voice in defense and jumped away from him. And then Mr. Ryuzaki started to smile with a chilling malice in his eyes and said,
What are you talking about? Without your daughter, we can finally be together. That's why I took her away for you.
Damn, my ears really be hearing the most abominable things today. If I wasn't mistaken, that would mean that my boss, standing right there not 3 feet away in front of me, was the mysterious individual who reported me. And the dastardly criminal who pushed Ruriko down the stairs was also. My instincts screamed at me to run, but before I could... Ah! Stop! Stop this, please!
I'm never letting you go. We're alone together, finally!
He grabbed me, threw me on the couch, and restrained my hands and legs. At that moment, the doorbell rang.
Pardon me, ma'am. It's Kamezu from the CPC. I just heard a large sound. Are you alright in there, ma'am?
I heard Mr. Kamezu's voice from beyond the door.
Who's that? You had another man? Not just me? I won't forgive! I will never forgive you!
His grip on me tightened, but I still managed to let out the loudest scream I could muster. Help me, please! The door's open! Immediately after I screamed, Mr. Kimezu came rushing into my aid and restrained Mr. Ryuzaki, who was completely on top of me at that point. Mr. Kimezu must have been a powerful man because the amount of time it took him to get Ryuzaki off me, throw him to the ground, and pin him down took less than 5 seconds. In the end, Ryuzaki was taken away by the police, who I called, of course. According to the details the police later told me, Mr. Ryuzaki had had feelings for me ever since I started working my job. However, I refused his offers to go out every time. As a reason, I told him that I had to look after my daughter. But I just wasn't interested in Mr. Ryuzaki as a man. Additionally, ever since my marriage with Akira, I vowed not to be in a relationship with any guy until Ryuko was grown up. There was always myself doubting my own standards for choosing a man to be with anyway. So I never even suspected that he thought that we were a compatible match. However, where normal, sensible guys would be rational and leave the situation for a time, Mr. Ryuzaki just couldn't forget about his feelings for me and eventually got to thinking,
I'm positive she likes me back too, but we can't be together for some reason. If she never had a daughter, then maybe we could be very happy. Oh, I know! I'll free her of her obligations to her child. In any case, a child she had with her ex-husband isn't worthy of her at all. Akio could be so much happier if she no longer had a daughter and had me instead. That's it!
I don't know how someone could possibly build the tracks for such an atrocious train of thought that would result in these ridiculous delusions. The goosebumps never went away as I listened to the whole story. And his grand plan was to use Mr. Kimezu to separate me from Mariko. First, he thought that luring Mariko away from the nursery would be a difficult feat, so after browsing the internet for potential alternatives, he fell upon a solution in the realm of child abuse. He wouldn't be the abuser, mind. He would be the one to report a case of abuse against anyone he suspected. Not only could you report a case of child abuse or negligence anonymously, but it also said after numerous reports of the same person, it would lead to the temporary protection of the child until further notice. Of course, this is true. I read in the news once that in an effort to protect a child from abusive parents, neighbors bound together multiple times to report the case. In the end, the father who abused his child and his wife was taken into custody, and the mother and child were put into legal care for a brief period of time, before being escorted back home. But Mr. Ryuzaki is single and childless. He probably never fully understood how abnormal the situation if a child abuse reports were filed. Suddenly filing such a report against a family whose parent-child relationship is healthy and full of love would only be labeled as a mistaken accident. In the end, his claims were waved aside and thus frustrated him. But he would not be deterred, and as he thought of ways to definitively prove I was abusing Ryuko, he stumbled upon an even more horrifying plan. Finding my home address was a piece of cake if you looked through company records. He then proceeded to observe my private life for a short while. He'd apparently understood that I often went out with Ryuko to fun places on the weekend, and for the last few weeks he'd been waiting for the perfect time to strike an ambush. He got his chance when he saw my daughter walk out the door on her own. He pushed her down the stairs without the slightest hesitation. I never imagined he was a person capable of such raw cruelty. Not only me, but everyone else at work. Mr. Ryuzaki is a well-respected man in our company, and my first impression of him was kind and gentle. But that never meant that that was all there was to Mr. Ryuzaki. He was immersed in such atrocious ideas, and he willingly conjured up an incident so scary it sends my heart racing to this day. In the end, he was charged with attempted murder, and it seems he's never going to escape from penal servitude, if not worse, as punishment. Even though I was told I had to wait a few days before I could try to redeem myself, he explained himself later.
In my years, I've seen multiple parents inflict abuse upon their children. Frankly, I never regarded you as a person who would do such things. So the reason why I came here was because I just wanted to know what you had to say about the matter more quickly.
You know the results. His guess about me was absolutely right, and thanks to him, I was saved. Thank you so very, very much. I can't imagine where I would be right now if not for you rushing to my rescue.
No parent must be forcefully separated from their child if the reason is nothing but disinformation. And I thought accelerating the process would help you recover more quickly from the trauma. I must offer my deepest apologies for causing such sadness. I must admit, I was merely doing my job.
Thank you. A few months later, we'd moved. I started a new job and we started a new life together. Ruriko recovered quickly from her injuries, and she's doing well in her new kindergarten with new friends. By the way, my new job is also in designing, but other than management, it's almost run entirely by women. I was shocked when I stumbled upon their advertisement for employment and very happy. Many of my own new colleagues are married and have children of their own, some with teenagers. Perfect opportunities to share concerns mother to mother. Like Ryuzaki would be scarce here, and that alone made me decide to work here. I never kept my reasons for changing jobs a secret, and my boss said, "I'll make sure to give everyone a good lecture, never to bother you. Sound good?" They took me on enthusiastically. Needless to say, I'm really starting to wonder what the hell is going on with my luck with guys. From now on, even if a guy asks me out, I'm going to stop using Ruriko as leverage to refuse. I chose of my own free will not to be in a relationship with any guy. If I'd told Ryuzaki that in the first place, perhaps the incident never would have happened. Although it might sound like a stretch, no one can completely deny that my actions eventually drove his whole life into the ground. I mustn't forget that.
Hey, Mommy! At school today, Mi-chan and Ko-kun became a couple.
What? You can be lovey-dovey at 5 years old?
Yep, they were kissing too.
No! Oh, honey, I think it's a little too soon for you to do something like that.
Yeah, I think so too.
You do?
Because if I get lovey-dovey, then I'd leave Mommy all alone. You don't like alone, do you, Mommy? So I think I'll get lovey-dovey if you get lovey-dovey, okay?
I was nearly moved to tears by those words of hers, but no, I must resist. Ruriko, sweetheart, Mommy doesn't want to be lovey-dovey with boys anymore.
Oh, why not?
Mommy would be so happy to see you grow up big and strong and then find someone you want to be lovey-dovey with forever, see? So you don't need to worry about me, sweetheart.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I'll be friends with Ken-kun.
Oh, so you like a boy named Ken-kun, huh? Tell me which one he is next time, okay?
Yeah, he's really cool. I think you'll be surprised.
My highest priority right now is to spend time with Ruriko like this, happy, laughing, and above all else, together. And who knows when this will happen, but I anxiously await the day Ruriko brings home a nice guy, and the day I see her in a wedding dress. Until then, I'll do my best in the greatest job I could ever ask for in the world, being a mother.